What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Comfort Zone Commander podcast, your place for some casual, comfortable Commander conversations. I'm your host, Dan. That's your host, John. John, what are we talking about today?
All right, so today we're going to have a fun, hot, spicy little conversation about cards on the banned list. Specifically, we're going to be going over the creatures on the Commander banned list. There's a ton of cards on the banned list. We want to give you guys a little bit of a taste here, a little bit of a taste there. So we're going to be beginning this set of conversations with the creatures on the banned list. Do we like it? Do we not? Do we want to run them? Do we think these cards are evil and abhorrent? Let's figure it out.
And do not forget, baby, we are doing our giveaway. We're coming into the close here, at least I think or hope. We're going to do a short as well to try to get this thing out the door. But we're giving away this Wilds of Eldraine sealed set booster box. If you're an audio-only listener, head on over to the YouTube. It's the same name and everything, and you can get on this giveaway. All you got to do is be one of the first 100 subscribers to the YouTube channel, comment on any of the videos during the duration of the contest, and you're in. That's it. See the description for the official rules. But, any hooser, get comfortable because we're going to dive in here. We're going to start, we're just going left to right, top to bottom. We're just going down the list, I guess in the way that we're looking at it. Maybe we'll link you up to the little thing that we have here on Moxfield that we're going off of so you can read along if you'd like. But we are going to start with Braids, the Cabal minion. John, what do you think? Braids, do we like it? What's it doing on there?
So Braids, she's a 4-mana 2/2 that at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. And I can understand why, maybe, people don't like it. To me, it reads as one of those cards that if they still had that banned as commander and banned in the 99 list, she might sit on the banned as a commander side. I think that there are plenty of cards that force sacrifice, that get rid of your artifacts and your creatures on a consistent basis at a 4 mana. I don't think that's too low, but I think having her infinitely accessible in your command zone is where that really becomes like a very punishing ability.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that, so I never played against Braids in the command zone. I remember back when the list was split, which is interesting. I totally forgot about that until you just said it. But when the list was split, I do believe that she was one of the ones solely banned on the commander slot for a bit. So I'm sure that there was some, tomfoolery with her in the command zone, maybe duplicating the trigger. I'm not sure. If you guys are familiar or did play with Braids, definitely throw it up in the comments because I would like to know what kind of crazy, hellacious experience that was. But I can understand in the whole resource, depletion. I don't know. Nobody likes getting rid of their stuff.
No.
So I can understand that. However, I think that probably with power creep nowadays, at Force MC, I don't know. She could probably be unbanned. I think it's one of those situations where the play group would probably take care of that if the Rule Zero conversation is going the right way. I think she kind of is a big tell as to what she's going to be doing. So I think people can easily just kind of say, I don't really want that experience without it being too difficult to understand that desire. And also, it's not like she's going to corner the market for mono black. There's tons of options to do other fun and interesting things. So for me, my official vote is doesn't need to be banned. Oh, well. By the way, as we do this, all props to the rules committee. This job is obviously insanely hard and voluntary, and thank you for everything you do. Whether or not we think it should be banned, it's totally irrelevant. This is just for fun. Might as well just keep it banned. Probably keeps Commander more fun. But if I'm being honest, that would probably be my call. Unban it. Who cares? I'm probably going to say Rule Zero. I don't really want to play against it, but not a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. What about you? Ban? Unban?
We could unban it. Again, I think you're kind of right on the money for me too. Rule Zero, I'm probably not going to want to play against that deck. So it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But I guess, unbanning it would be fine.
Yeah, fine. Who knows? Again, we don't know any of the back end of the ripple effect. I never even played against this. It could be terrible. It could be prescribing some nightmare scenario, but unlimited knowledge running through this, that's my feeling there. Next up on the list, we got Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, which I'm sure you guys already know my feelings on the matter, but I'll expound on it anyway. We got a 15 mana 15/15 Eldrazi. It cannot be countered. Oof. When you cast it, you take an extra turn. Oof. It has protection from colored spells. It has Annihilator 6. It's got flying, and if it will be put into the graveyard from any old place, you're going to shuffle it back in. Yeah, so what do you think about this guy?
Here's the thing, man. If I was forced to play against Summoning Trap, Emrakul, and Standard, I think y'all should be forced to see it in Commander. I really don't. Listen, I like degenerate cards that like flip out of the grave and different things. If you hit me with a 15/15 for 15 that lets you take an extra turn, like, there are enough things to let you do other things, like take a million other, like taking one turn with a 15/15, taking 10 extra turns with some 2/2s. You're still taking turns and killing me. And I like the Eldrazi, so like, let's see her. Let's see it happen. Hit me with it.
Yeah, so I love Emrakul, okay? I love the art, I love the vibe, I love the name. If you guys watched our Typo coverage, you know, I'd be loving them Eldrazi, you know, that IRL Space Noodle stuff. So, I don't know, I got a soft spot here. I recognize it's problematic. I think the worst line on there, probably for defending it, is probably the can't be countered, which I know sounds maybe like crazy, but like, you know, in situations where you can cheat it, it still can't be countered. Which, even though we don't play in like really counter heavy, like, you know, play groups, it definitely has that vibe of like can't do anything about it, and that's a little like problematic because between that and the protection from colored spells, it's like,
that's
okay,
true, yeah.
like it can't be countered coming out, and then once it comes out, the majority of the removal and answers that we have also can't deal with it. And it's got that Annihilator 6, which is just going to eat boards in a second. So with cheating, I totally understand how you can cheat out an Emrakul in a way that still has it be cast, and then it's extremely problematic. So even though I personally would love to be able to play Emrakul, and of course a big part of me wants to go, yes, Rule 0 can take care of this, I feel like Emrakul would be a card that is less common to have players actually announce as a Rule 0. You know, it gets down to that nitty gritty, like how much should you say you have in your deck. So honestly, I got to give it to the ban on this one. I don't flame me, but I don't know. I see a lot of problems with this, especially with power creep and the ability to kind of easily cast these things out. I would love to run Emrakul in my deck and just tell people I got it and like see that they're okay with it or not because of my personal bias and love. But for the community, I think we could keep it banned. What do you think?
Nah, I'm right there with you. Like, if somebody came, it's like, or you or anybody else, like, hey, this is the deck I'm running. It's this, it's that, it's the other thing. And I do run Emrakul. I'd probably be cool with it, but I think in general, keeping it on the ban list, erring on the side of that being not what would happen every time, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it sitting under the hammer. Next we got a card that I don't even know if I realized existed, and if I did at one point, I definitely didn't know it was on the ban list, is Erayo, the Soratami Ascendant. It's a 2-mana 1/1 flyer that whenever the 4th spell of a turn is cast or played, you flip Erayo. And it's one of those Kamigawa-ian flips that turns upside down and is then an enchantment that reads, counter the first spell played by each opponent each turn. So, here's the thing. When I read that 10 seconds ago when we were finishing up the Emrakul talk, I'm thinking, 4th spell, like, okay, it's going to take a minute for that to go. Now, there's 4 people in a regular game of Commander. That could be like one reaction to one thing. One time gets 4 things cast, and now you have, 50% of what is a Jin-Gitaxias. And he's cost 7 mana. Like, I'm not saying...
This...
Go ahead.
No, I could see this thing as being like, an issue for sure. This is another one where I wouldn't have been alive to have battled against it per se. But like a Cheerio style build, like you imagine like one of those like, oh, my whole deck is 0-drop, whatever, ornithopters and stuff. Like imagine that in this scenario. Like you have a 2-mana commander where you can just instant Cheerio out, flip it, and now you have one of those enchantment commanders, which again, harder to remove, less density of removal played for it. And now you have, like you said, like a portion of like that Jin-Gitaxias or that whatever, the Chancellor or whatever. The first spell each turn countered ability, we've seen it a couple times before, but this is like a really cheap floor, really easy to access if you have the right build, and then becomes kind of monstrously oppressive, I'm sure. I mean, even the recast on this is just 4, you know what I mean? Like, even if they ever dealt with it, you can get it right back. I just see that as being, again, like a little bit oppressive, a little like really easy to access stacks piece right there in your command zone that will definitely disrupt play. So yeah, I don't know. I say keep it banned. I don't think it seems like a fun like build path. I guess like, I don't know, maybe like CDH people would like it, but it probably is problematic in that territory anyway. So I keep it banned. That's for me. That's my vote.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, next up we got the boy Golos, the Tireless Pilgrim. This one also another one that has more like a me-based bias, but a 5-mana 3/5, notably a colorless legendary artifact creature, Scout. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for any land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. For a sweet 2 generic and Wooburg, you can exile the top 3 cards of your library, and you can play them this turn for free without paying that mana cost. So Golos is pretty crazy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I probably dislike him. I don't know if it's the same reason as everybody else or a different reason as anybody else. But all I'm saying, if you run him in a deck with, I don't know, there's a land that says you can't take damage.
Stop that.
And things don't attack, or whatever it is. What's it called? It's a chasm. It's a glacial chasm. You ran him with glacial chasm. And I'm not saying that's what you got every time. But I am saying that is a very powerful ability. And then you can also spend 7 mana to play 3 cards for free. In any deck where you can even suggestively fix the top, that 3 cards, that's a lot. That's a lot. I don't think I necessarily saw what it felt like the community saw from Golos decks, because it was just a landfall deck. Even in just a landfall deck, he was obscenely powerful, and your landfall deck took a hit when they put him on the ban list. So I'd say that I'm fine with leaving him there.
Ouch. Yeah, no, I don't know, that's probably fair. So I had a Golos landfall deck. I built it immediately upon him being spoiled or released, and yeah, I was super excited about it because I love landfall as a concept, but I never had any like commander really kind of ring the bells for me and make me super stoked about it. I liked Golos because obviously why anybody would like him. You can blink him to get his ability again. It's a really great way to tutor up selective lands. They go straight into play. It was interesting because he's a 5-color commander that happens to be colorless, so that was also cool in the same way that one mirror dude is. So he's really easy to cast the commander no matter how your fixing is kind of going up until that point. And because he goes and finds you a land anyway, he can even himself kind of help you then fix colors thereafter. So I liked everything that he was doing with respect to landfall. I also like that he enabled me to go grab some like crazy old lands I had, like Glacial Chasm, which I don't even... Honestly, I think when I first built it, I'd never seen anybody run Glacial Chasm. I had an old Glacial Chasm that I had never put in any deck and thought was relatively useless. The cumulative upkeep was just like really oppressive. I think it's cumulative upkeep pay 2 life. and all it does is makes you not take damage, and you have to sack a land when it comes into play, and it doesn't tap for mana. So I'm like, wow, this is a massive amount of downsides. Just so happens in Golos with land recursion, the ability to fetch it out, and then I played a bunch of bounce lands, which I'm sure probably a lot of people did. So I could always reset that cumulative upkeep. It did become pretty impressive with Glacial Chasm. I think there was like a small window of time where I took Glacial Chasm out of the deck, specifically because it was really changing the phases of play. But anyway, long story short, I think this is another Emrakul scenario for me. Like, personally, I loved running Golos. It was a lot of fun, and I feel like my deck was probably more tame by comparison. I went for the Maze's End. Mine was gates based. I wasn't running any fetches either in my landfall deck. It was all basically gates and bounce lands with a few, really good cards like Field of the Dead or whatever, So I don't know. I miss my Golos deck. My landfall deck is actually literally still out of commission ever since the banning. I haven't found like a good replacement. And then they went ahead and gave us the Omnath that has nothing to do with the lands. I mean, come on, man. Every other Omnath that exists. Do you know how much I was sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for that Omnath to be my Golos replacement? I'm like, no worries. They're going to release Omnath. It's all good. Then boom. This is the Omnath we get. But anyway, not that I hate him, by the way. I actually have a deck with him. It's just not my landfall deck. Anyway, I'm talking too much about it because it's a sore spot for me. Not a sore spot, but I have history with it, and I used to have the deck. So I guess... Again, I'll probably say keep it banned because of what I've heard about other instances of it, and because I know that it kind of just took over the community by storm, and it's like every 5-color deck for a while was Golos because it was just the choice commander. If you were going to go 5-color, I mean, hey, here's Golos, super easy to cast, get a land, easy. I get it. Keep it banned. That's fine. So, what do we got next?
Next up is Gristlebrand, who is the 8-mana 7/7 flying lifelink with the not controversial or very strong ability pay 7 life to draw 7 cards.
Easy.
What do we think about that?
Well, ye old Gristlebrand. Well, here's the thing. In a format where you start with 40 life and life is a resource, if you're here in the zone, also pretty much if you're anywhere and playing this card, it's because your life be a resource, and paying 7 life to draw 7 be a perfect combo engine. Not to mention he can be in your command zone, which makes him especially dubious. Again, I never versed a Gristlebrand deck in the command zone. I did see Gristlebrand in the 99, albeit a couple times prior to his banning, or maybe even like after the ban, but like before the word kind of got around, which I had many experiences with another card on this list that I still see people included now and again because I feel like it catches people off guard, but we'll talk about that when I get there. Long story short, Gristlebrand, obviously that ability is pretty gassed. I mean, he is 8 mana to get out, but there's so many ways to cheat things out. And with that open-ended thing, I mean, you're talking like a Yawgmoth's, whatever. It's on the list. It's later on the list, so I guess we'll save that for the next episode. But there's the enchantment, that old Yawgmoth thing that was literally like pay a life, draw a card. This is just the same exact thing, and obviously you can see where that becomes problematic. Absolutely ban it, in my opinion. Done.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I like the card, and it bums me out because as like a story character, as a demon, like I like kind of where he falls in place. But that ability is unhinged, and we're gonna slap that into the ban pile every single time. That's all I really have to say about it.
It's actually funny that you bring that up because I originally was sad about the ban. I totally forgot that because at the time I was trying to build my Liliana with the theme deck, and I wanted to have all the demons, and I was like, oh well, I can never use Gristlebrand, so I guess SOL,
Yeah, I mean, they even printed that secret layer with like special art for all 4 demons, and you can't use them.
Maybe someday they'll make me another Gristlebrand, like weak Gristlebrand or teenager Gristlebrand, and it'll be like a lot more balanced, and then I can use it. We'll see.
Maybe.
Anyway, next up, we got the Hull Breacher. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this card. 2 and a blue for a 3/2 flash. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead, you create a treasure token. Wowza. What do you think about this guy?
Well, I don't know if you guys have ever drawn cards or have ever drawn cards in mass. That ability, again, like it like stuns me to even like think about it, whereas I'm like, man, I'm going to draw even just like 2 cards. Oh, well, that means that guy gets 2 treasures. What if you're drawing 5? What if you draw 10? What if you draw 20? Everybody draws cards. It's Commander, card advantage. Who doesn't love card advantage? Your opponent plays Gristlebrand, bummer, Flash and Hull Breach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that card it's so powerful. And the amount of acceleration it gives you, like, it gives you enough acceleration that, to me, what it felt like the few number of times I saw it, it wasn't, oh, wow, we're going to give that guy a lot of treasures. It was, oh, wow, I'm not going to play any of my card advantage. And that sucks. So I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Leave it there.
Yeah, I think Hull Breacher is like a no-duh, in my opinion. I mean, like, I hesitate to even say things of the nature, but like I just feel like he should never have been made with this specific ability. And the reason for that, really, honestly, is the oppressive, abusable like nature of like wheel effects. Because it's not just like draw a bunch of cards, discard your hand, then draw a bunch of cards. Oh, wait, don't actually draw them. I'm going to make the treasures instead. You know, so like you hit that thing with the Tolarian Winds or something. You know what I mean? Everybody's just a windfall. Everybody discards their hand, draws cards equal to the greatest hand size. But all of your opponents, each one of them, if they would draw a card past the one they would draw in their draw step, it's not even in their draw step. Literally every single one of the cards you just make in the treasures. Boom. Do they even come into play tapped? No, they don't even come into play tapped. You instantly have access to that mana.
Yep.
I don't understand how you don't just like, if you play that card in a wheel-based deck, you win the game instantaneously. Because of that exponential possibility of just ending games and complete resource depletion, again, hand depletion, like, yeah, I never want to play against this card. I say absolutely ban it. But what do we got next?
All right, so next we have another. I know the last card I talked about was a big old demon. Now we got a big old angel, Iona, the Shield of Emeria. Unfortunately, the only thing she's shielding is my ability to play the game. So she's a 9-mana 7/7 flyer who says, as Iona enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. So here's the thing, guys. What do we think about that?
Oh, yeah. So Iona, she be okay. All right. Listen, ain't nobody gonna like me for this. All right, I'm just putting it out there immediately. I love Iona. And don't get me wrong, I really honestly love it because of the art and just like the vibe. I just love that it is a massive angel. Like, even the art makes her feel like she is this Titan-esque angel. And I played her back in Zendikar, you know, as part of my like summoning trap-ish vibe. And, you know, I don't know, I had a foil one, so it's incredibly biased, but I really like Iona, and I still have the one from the Vault Angels. And I don't know, I feel like with power creep and things over time, her specific text box is less oppressive. I understand that if you're across the table from a a monocolor deck, that it does say like you just cannot play. But in a lot of situations, like especially in a multiplayer format, like there's probably going to be somebody at the table where you don't have a direct line to just like the obvious color. If you just pick the monocolor deck guy, like, ooh, that's a feels bad man for him. But it's also, you know, depending on the play group, that might not be the right choice at the time. You know, you might end up just like negging that one guy out of the game and then allowing the other 2 players to be totally unaffected, and then they're going to retaliate, you know. So it's like, I don't know, it's not like a end all be all, there's nothing you can do about it, boom, you know, in most situations. But that's a weak defense. I understand that it is a like you can't play the game anymore type of card. But I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't necessarily see it as that much more oppressive than like Void Winnower, who is not on the list. Even though like I understand that Void Winnower obviously like leaves more opportunity for spells to be cast, given that it's just getting rid of your evens. But I don't know. I like her. She's big. She's cool. She's beautiful. I love the art. I want to be able to play Iona on occasion in the right format with a Rule Zero conversation. So for me personally, complete and utter bias, I would like her to be unbanned. For the community, I don't know. I guess you could say ban, but I don't know if it's necessary, to be honest. You know what? I'm going on a limb. Go ahead. Tell me how you feel about it, but I'm saying unban Iona for your papa. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they unbanned her, I wouldn't be like, oh, wow, I'm offended, I'm appalled, it's as abhorrent. But I also played a monocolor deck, and again, I hate to go back to standard, but I played a monocolor deck when that card was real popular. And I look at that card, and my blood just burst into flames, because the amount of games where I was like, oh, I got this! And then I saw that big, beautiful angel and was like, never mind.
Well,
I don't got
actually,
nothing.
Sorry, I'm jumping in, but it's funny that you say that because, at the time I could have been one of the people doing it to you. But real quick, before you give your weigh in, I wanted to remember to mention that this was the card I was speaking about.
Oh, I know.
That got played on me with somebody not knowing it was on the ban list. So I played it in a game at an LGS, and believe it or not, this happened to me more than one time. I've seen Iona 2 times at minimum, if not maybe 3 times, where people weren't familiar with it being on the ban list.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is to say that at the point where it was played at the LGS, and this is not just to support my bias, but it came out, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to embarrass the guy. He hadn't played Magic in a long time. He wasn't aware. That's totally fine. Of course, we could talk about it after game, but I just play it out. It wasn't too bad. And that's exactly the point. It really wasn't too bad. There wasn't a direct perfect pick for the person. The color blend at the table was a little bit of a mix. It was definitely like a little bit of a puzzle to solve for a turn or two, but eventually we got an answer and it was gone. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't hit us all because he could only pick the single color. And the one guy that was majority affected, he might have gone around or whatever and, not been able to do something. But like, is that any more oppressive than, somebody taking an extra turn? I mean, not that much. So I don't know. I'm not saying like it certainly can be horrible. I admit that. But I wanted to really quick say that this was the card I was mentioning earlier that I had seen somebody play and had that experience with. So not to devalidate your memories of it in standard, but I have played against it in a commander variant and it wasn't like the worst situation. But now, go ahead and finish up your opinion.
I mean,
try to persuade you.
That, again, if they unbanned her, I wouldn't cry in front of anybody. But I do, again, there are definitely some situations I could see where that could leave a bad taste in your mouth. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, so I understand why she's on here. And if they leave her on there, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But
that's acceptable. That's fine. We can go adversary on this one. That's okay. I respect that stance, and I think it's probably the right one. I'm just like leaning into my love of the actual card. Instead of its implications on the format. But up next, we got Leovold, the Emissary of Trest. This bad apple I actually have gotten the pleasure of playing against, unlike some of the other potential commanders I never got to see. He is a bug commander, just a black, green, blue for a 3/3. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. And whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you draw a card. Wow. Wouldn't you say? Wow, John?
Yeah, I mean, his flavor text is, I'm sure we can come to an arrangement, and it seems like they did. They put him on the ban list. Because that was the fair arrangement. Because let me tell you, I have never played against him. But I remember when he was printed, and I went, oh, He's going to stop my opponents from drawing a bunch of cards. I get to draw a bunch of cards. And, they got me right in the feels with he's a cheap 3-color commander because he's as cheap as it gets. And the 3 colors they picked are my beautiful Sultai colors. So I was bummed because I was like, oh, I don't think he was around for very long before they were like, ka-choom.
Yeah.
But 100%, that is evil. Evil. Leave him there. I've never played against him, and I honestly don't want to.
Yeah, so I did play against this guy, and remember the conversation we were having about Hull Breacher? Well, he'd pretty much be doing the same thing, except he happens to be in your command zone. So I did have a buddy who built Leovold, and it was a wheel-based deck, and that's exactly what it did.
Oh,
you play Leovold, you wheel, and then everybody else gets to draw 1, and you get to draw a gajillion. And then if anybody ever has removal, you also get to draw off of it because of his secondary part of his text, which why did he need it? I don't know. Also, he's a 3-mana 3/3. What, he couldn't have even been like a 1/1? I mean, or at least like take him down a Kanach there, maybe. But anyway, long story short, if you ever did deal with him, he's also 3 mana. So he comes back out for 5, and they're already resourced up above you like you wouldn't believe. You got 1 card left in your hand, maybe. They're repping, 21. You're done. I mean, this guy was like an instantaneous. If this is in the command zone, everybody else is just gonna lose. His mana value is way too low for what he does. He's way too resource depleting. He's horrible to play against. I never want to play against this guy again. If they unbanned him, here's what would happen. Rule 0, absolutely not. I walk away. Done. I play against Turgrid before I play against this thing. Which it wouldn't be like, okay, you do you, but like it ain't going to be me that you're doing it to. That's it. You know what I mean? No way. I've done it. It's over. Yeah, definitely keep him banned. Absolutely. Who's up next?
Next up, we have a card that, again, I honestly, it's a good thing I haven't accidentally just run a bunch of cards that are on the Commander ban list. We have Lutri the Spell Chaser, who's an elemental otter for 1 and 2 hybrid Izzet mana for a 3/2. He's got Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. I don't know if you guys know, but that's how EDH works. He's got Flash, and then when he enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Tell me about Lutri.
Well, okay, I don't know. I don't know where I stand with Lutri, to be honest with you. I understand the concept of his box literally says, if you're playing this format, you may run him. Unless you're playing that one like Here Comes the Dragon deck, or what's that card called? Dragon's Approach. That's right. Here Comes the Dragon was close. But understandably, you can run him in any other Izzet inclusive deck, which I can see how that's problematic. However, y'all know I be a companion defendant, which is not to say how it impacted other formats. And I played Pioneer slightly recently, and it's very weird companion in 60 card formats. I don't really like it, so I'm sure people are frustrated. But in terms of Commander, I think companion is a lot of fun. It adds a build restriction to the deck. Yes, there's the social element of like, ooh, do you know for sure that the person is honoring the build restriction? But like, if they aren't and the card comes out, you go, hey, what? That don't work. And then either it's like a oops, sorry moment, or it's like a hey, let's shuffle back up and whatever. I don't know. Companions are fun. Most of Commander is an honor policy anyway. You don't know if somebody's running, 2 Canopy Vistas in their deck or anything. Who knows? Unless they play them both, it could be in there. So the social element of it is not like too much of a concern for me if they're actually honoring the companion condition. Long story short, with Lutri, after they did the companion edit, which forced you to pay the 3 mana to put the companion into your hand before being able to cast it, after that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I would really care about seeing a Lutri. I don't think it would bother me. But I do understand for, the format versatility like not seeing Lutri in every Is It, base deck just because it's additive value that's available to you. For that reason, I say ban it. This format is all about, variability, versatility, having this unique experience over and over again. So like one card that's going to show up in every single Is It inclusive deck because it just simply can, and it doesn't even take up one of your card slots. Yeah, I don't know if you knew that. I did not know that until I went to build my first companion-based EDH deck. And if you read like in the Gatherer, the companion additional rules section, it does not count as one of your cards in the 99 there. It's just a bonus card. So why would you ever not run this thing? That's the problem I think exists with it. And for that reason, since it doesn't add an additional level of build restriction that forces creativity, since it is just a free grab, even though I don't see it as too scary of a card, I see it as a really format dulling card, and I say ban it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, after hearing your I honestly didn't know where I stood either, and after hearing the reasoning, that is probably a huge part of it, which is the staleness of, if the deck has red and blue, Lutri should be in there. Not even just can be, but should be. Why would you not? I think it's a good idea. Again, it's definitely a rule zero for me that if somebody said, hey man, I run this deck, if somebody brings to the table an Is It copy spell deck, and they say, I have Lutri, I'd like to use my companion, I'm going to go, yeah, go ahead, man. Cool. I'm down. But I can see how, in general, for the format, keeping him banned is a good spot for him, for sure. Who's up next?
Yes, sir. Next, we got Primeval Titan. Ye Olde Prime Time. It was a 4 generic and 2 green for a 6/6 with trample. When he enters the battlefield or attacks, you can search your library for up to 2 land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. What do you think about this guy?
All right. So I have a very specific opinion on this guy, which is very similar to a very specific opinion I have to another creature that we haven't gotten to yet on this list. So you're going to hear this a little bit twice. I am a huge fan of when Magic prints a set of cards. And not a set as in how they release sets, but as in the Titans. There's the Grave Titan. There's Inferno Titan. I run 4 of the 5 Titans that exist in that set among varying commander decks that I own. And I'm not allowed to run the 5th one. And that makes me mad. That is my entire opinion about him being on the ban list. I'd like to be able to run him because I like running the other 4. Is Grave Titan very good in my zombie deck or my reanimator deck? Yes. Is Inferno Titan bad in the only deck I run him in? Also yes. Is Frost Titan mid in the deck that he's in? Yes. But do I like them, and I like that they're a set, and I'm mad that I can't run them all? 100%. However, vis-a-vis, head back to that conversation we had about Golos. That doesn't say basic land, that says land. I was thinking back to Standard. Grabbing 2 lands when he was in Standard was strong. But most of the time, it was just lands to get more mana. It was just mad acceleration. In the world of Commander, where there are a lot of lands, do a lot of things that make me very sad, keep him out. But somebody, let me run him just so I can say I run them all, please.
Yeah, all right, that's a fair opinion. I didn't know if you were going to go for unban, full-heartedly because of the bias. I agree. He's got to be banned. He's too strong. Even if you literally made him get 1 land, and I understand why they didn't, because of the whole synergy. I mean, I guess Inferno does 3 damage. Is it 3? I know that Grave Titan be making the 2. I know that there's definitely number 2 synergies on Frost, so maybe they were trying to keep in line with that. But even if Primeval was literally go get a land, and then whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, it would still be nice and abusable. I mean, literally, you can have a ETB, attack. Even if you have a blink package, post-combat main phase, Conjurer's Closet, you can literally just blink him into turn. And I don't know, you can generate a lot of land advantage with him, even if it was just at one land. But the fact that it's 2 and it's not restricted to basics, I don't know, it's pretty nutty. I think he's got to stay banned just because of how incredibly powerful that ability is. For the mana investment, for the repeatability, for the blink ability, it's just too strong. Speaking of which, our next card on the list is
the Prophet of Krufix. So the Prophet of Krufix is a 3 mana and a green and a blue equaling 5, 2/3 human wizard creature that says untap all creatures and lands you control during each other player's untap step. You may cast creature cards as though they had flash. Hit me with it.
Yeah. I think this thing is like a no-brainer as well. It doesn't bear like a ton of discussion. I mean, I know 5 mana is 5 mana, but literally it just says you take a turn every time your opponents take a turn. I don't know. And it gives you like ultimate versatility. Like you can play every single card responsively that you want to, obviously in creature-based decks, like, and untap one. I don't know. It's Seaborn Muse on like, you know, like Cloud 2 billion. I don't know. It needs to be banned in my opinion. This thing was in every Simic deck. Simic don't need the help. It absorbed the format and it's crazy. Ban it all the way.
Yep.
What
Slam it.
You think?
Slam it. Ban it. Do whatever you gotta do to it. Cause it harm. Burn all. Collect all the copies of it and set them on fire. Whatever you need to do. Like you said it perfectly. This card literally says in a large majority of decks that it's in, it says every time your opponents take a turn, you have the full versatility aside from land drops of taking your own turn, and that is dumb. It's just dumb. It is too strong. It is unhinged. It is uncomparably strong to Seaborn Muse. Keep it out of here. I can't do it.
Fair. Next up, we got Rafellos, the Llanowar Emissary. We got a 2 green pip 2/1 elf legend who can tap to add 1 green to your mana pool for each forest you control. John, you must feel some kind of way about this.
Yeah, I actually, believe it or not that long ago, I got rid of my Rafellos. Because he's banned. But let me tell you, as somebody who loved the mono green elf thing and elf ball and mana and stuff, I know he's strong. I know that if you have a bunch of lands, he just taps for a bunch more. I understand that. Do we not have 100 zillion elves that tap and make 100 zillion? I've floated hundreds of mana with non-infinite mana. I just think Rafellos is another good one of those. I get it. In the command zone, blah-de-blah. If you're of that opinion, I'm not saying you're wrong. But Priest of Titania is ridiculous. Gaia's Cradle. I don't even know if that's banned. It might be. We're going to talk about that another time. But again,
no,
like,
it's not.
So that's not banned. Like, there are a lot of ways. Green can make an obscene amount of mana. And my boy Rafellos, I'm just bummed. I had one and I never got to use it. And now I never will. And that makes me sad.
Word.
Unban my boy.
Absolutely ban this monster. Come on, bro. Listen, and I like Rafellos. Don't get I just finished the Artifacts series, of the old books. Rafellos is a character in the story, come from Llanowar, emissary because he goes over to Yavimaya and he becomes like kind of the new Multani for Yavimaya as Multani's off doing junk on the Weatherlight. What? Why does he even do that? I don't know. If you've read the books, powwow with me in the Discord that's coming up soon. But anyway, I like Rafellos as a character. I kind of wish that they would make a new Rafellos card, one that is potentially a little bit more balanced, but still has a character to be in Commander, which would be a lot more fun. In my opinion, because he's a legend, I feel like he should be banned. It's just him in the command zone. As a random elf in the deck, like whatever. Yes, there's a bunch that can make 1 billion mana, but like this guy in your command zone in the mono green elf deck, like being at 2 mana, being able to produce you add like 3 presumably the next turn that he's usable for you. And because it's elf ball, being able to infinitely replay him no problem. And he comes back in and he just has more juice. I don't know. To me, that's crazy. It's a little bit too much. Although I admit the guy's cradle thing is a good point, but that's another episode. So we'd be touching on that later. But yeah, for me, sorry, buddy. Gonna have to hammer this bad apple.
All right. Well, now we're gonna get to Sundering Titan, and another card I didn't know was banned. He's in a binder over there. So Sundering Titan is an 8-mana 7/10 that when he enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, choose a land of each basic land type, then destroy those lands.
Yep, that's what he do. Which me no likey. Yeah, believe it or not, here in the comfort zone, we are of the aligned mind of, please don't destroy my lands. Believe me, I did it for a period of time to John.
Myojin, that Myojin!
Okay, but in my defense, it was a game closer. I never you know what I mean? Like, I Myojin'd. Okay, listen. All right, now that it's out there, I gotta explain myself a little bit. It's not like I just threw Armageddons in random decks that had white just to be that guy. I had an Animar, Soul the Elements deck or whatever, which, okay, I guess that does make me some kind of guy, but it was back when he was first released and yada yada. I've since taken apart, but I did top end with the Myojin of Infinite Rage or whatever, which I dropped it. I blew up the lands. It was just kind of like a seal the deal thing. We never continued to play like in that environment thereafter. It was kind of just like a scoop button, but I understand it was like a feels bad scoop button. So like eventually, it wasn't really the way. But that being said, of course I don't really love like mass land destruction. Land destruction has to be in Commander, more or less. There's some lands that just are super problematic, have to be dealt with. You run a strip mine, a wasteland here and there, you know what I mean? A field of ruin or whatever the improvement one is. What's the field of ruin, but better. I don't remember. I run it in like everything. I don't even remember the name right now. Shout out in the comments if you remember the name. But like stuff like that, I feel like that's enough. You know what I mean? I don't feel like you need like more than that, and especially not on mass. This is resource depletion at its finest. It's an ETB and a leave the battlefield trigger. You blink this guy a couple times, everybody has nothing. I think he's an absolute monster, and he should also be removed from Magic in a general sense. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, before I agree with you completely and utterly and without disagreement even a little bit, I do need to be completely transparent that I did get salty about the Myojin of Infinite Rage, but I do run in my deck that has elves the Druid that allows me to tap my Druids to take all your lands, and I don't think taking all of somebody's lands is any less rude than destroying all of their lands. So just as long as we're being transparent, that is a deck that I still have. That card is still in it, and I still do it.
Yeah.
Just to be fair.
That's true.
But get Sundering Titan out of here. He's out of here. We're keeping him out of here. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to go rip mine in half. That's that.
That's fair. Although, admittedly, sorry, but, your deck that does have the steal the lands is like a rule 0. This deck is rude. It has everything. It's got the Voring Clicks, the Jink Attacks, whatever. It's that high powered stuff. I think, well, maybe not we all do, but me and John have like some decks that are specifically curtailed away for like, oh, we're playing like like cuffs are off, pedal to the floor type of game. We're just going to try to get a quick one in, win as fast as possible, play to win style. So it's not like John just be popping that off when I'm like, oh, I'm going to play my herky-durky, probably not going to work deck. And he's like, ha-ha, steal your lands. Like, definitely not the way that goes down. So,
yeah.
It'd be all right.
Yeah. And
but
for the last creature on the list of banned creatures that we're looking at right now is the other creature I mentioned that I'm mad about. And it's the Sylvan Primordial. So Sylvan Primordial is a 5 and 2 green 6/8 avatar with reach. He's a big old tree looking thing. And he says, when he enters the battlefield, for each opponent, destroy target non-creature permanent that player controls. For each permanent destroyed this way, search your library for a forest card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So Sylvan Primordial, I don't know. Actually, he's like the reflection of Primeval Titan in the Primordial series, as you were hinting at. I don't know. I don't see him as that big of a deal. I mean, he's 7 mana to get out. I understand you can cheat and blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't know. Destroying one of my non-creature permanents? I feel like there are other things that are this strong, if not stronger. Goes and gets you a forest. I understand you can get, like, the fixable lands, but it does ETB tapped. It's not like you can necessarily go grab anything that's too insanely spicy. You can get a Yavimaya, Cradle, whatever. Is it just Yavimaya? I don't know. You know, the one that turns everything in the forest. Or you can get some like other spice that... Or no, you can't even get that card. It's not itself a forest until it's on the battlefield. So yeah, you can't even get that thing. You can only get, the duels, I guess. I don't know. This thing is not too... cracked to me. I understand you can blink it. I understand you can recur the trigger. I understand that it is destroying stuff, but I don't know. I feel like if this was played against me, I would just be like, okay. I don't feel like I would be too bothered. I don't know. I say unban it. I don't know, man. Tell me in the comments if you face this thing and this is just like blowing your life apart. And then I'm sorry, but if I was on the ban committee today, I'd probably be like, yeah, I don't know. I guess we can take it off. It's probably not going to like cause too many problems, right? What do you think?
Here's the thing, guys. I'll say it again. The Primordials. Diluvian Primordial and Sepulchre Primordial hold hands. They hug. They watch Netflix together. They have a great old time in my Soul Tie Reanimator deck. Give me my Sylvan Primordial back. I'm going to buy one, put it in that deck, and make Dan let me roll 0 in every game. Because let me tell you, give me it. I don't get it. I don't. I run Terrastodon in that deck. Why can't I run Sylvan Primordial?
Well, T-Don does give your opponents the benefit. While Sylvan Primordial does give you the benefit. So
I'm still blowing up your permanents.
Yes, I can see the I can see the argument, and again, it is the non-creature restriction. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that again, I'm positive that the reason he's on here is probably has to do with land destruction. You know what I mean? It's probably because people be hitting him, recurring him, going land, and meanwhile you're digging out forests, so you're like trading 1 land for your opponents, 3 of your own, and if you just recur this guy, you can probably just deplete people's lands full-heartedly. If it said like non-creature, non-land, I think that'd be perfect, but like then maybe it's too restricted to be that much mana. So like this is an R&D thing. It's a nightmare to handle. That's why I am not currently on the R&D team. So, wow, who would have thunk? These people do hard work. So I don't know. I don't know how you fix this. I don't know. Like, it's probably like whatever. I say unban just because like whatever. I feel like I wouldn't be too salty, but I'm sure people abusing the hell out of this thing, it probably would suck.
And like again, even upon reading it, like I'm like, yeah, like what am I gonna blow up? Some artifact and enchantments? Because I'm not even thinking like blow up your lands. But if you flash this guy, or you blink this guy, and then you go, I'm gonna tick each of you down by a land and pump me by 3 lands. Even doing that like twice, you're taking the land balance and putting everybody else down 2. Sorry, his original need to be down 3 and you're up 9. So like a mana differentiation of 6 is pretty abhorrent.
Yeah,
still give me it. Still give me it. Still unban it. No. I'm gonna run it. Whatever. Okay,
no, listen, I'm redacting because even now that you're talking about it in your reanimator deck, it's helmed by Yarok. Like this thing with a Yarok on board is just literally destroy 2 lands for each of your opponents. I mean, I don't know. I take it back. I say keep him banned. I definitely, I know that you wouldn't be doing that, but like. I'm pretty sure that's probably why he ended up here. Is just land destruction. So I don't know, for the health of the format, and I can imagine many people using him for that to that end. So I don't know, maybe ban him. Also, look at him; he's a weirdie.
I like him.
Little tree vine weirdie.
He's my favorite art of all the primordials.
Get him out of
Actually,
here.
though.
Come on, man! You don't like the Diluvian? Look at that beautiful no face blue head bobble homuncula dude.
Or the Sepulchre one that's just a giant pile of swamp trash.
Swamp trash for the win. Well, that wraps up the creature portion of our ban list here. And as we stated, or as I stated somewhere in between, I think card 1 and 2, all praise be to the rules committee for doing this job for us so that we don't have to go ahead and initiate any of the opinions we just voiced. Because if we did, people would be mad.
Oh, yeah, they would.
We don't have to take that flack. So thank you, everybody out there that puts in the work to design these cards and then subsequently make sure to keep track of the health of the format and make difficult decisions that not everybody's going to be happy about, because that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? You can't please them all, but you can try to make the format, be as healthy, as fun, as accepting as it was intended to be, and honor the memory of Sheldon Menery, and continue that journey into a format where we can all have fun and not feel like we're forced to sit down in an oppressive game where we don't get to play, our resources are depleted, our hands are non-existent, or blah 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 blah. There's a ton of reasons to feel any kind of way here. All opinions are valid. I think the big takeaway is, by the by, this is an unsanctioned format. If you got a certain feeling about any of these things, just rule 0 it, man. Like, know your play group. If you guys have the conversation, you can rule 0 pretty much anything. I got decks that do a whole bunch of random stuff I rule 0 nowadays. I got one deck that has an unhinged card. I run it. You guys, if you've seen the vanilla episode, you would know. I run a single unhinged card in that deck. It's totally not legal in the format. It's banned. It's not. It's not legal in any format. But I rule 0 because it's a little bit of fun. If people go for it, then I play it. If they don't, I have a replacement card. You guys could do the same with anything on this list. If you're feeling like, especially, upended by the fact that you can't squash people into the dust and watch their souls wither with Leovold. You could always, see if they're down. Be like, hey, you want some soul withering? I got a Leovold rule 0 deck. If you just want to see like the end of your life or what that felt like for people in that era, you historically could put it together and rule 0 it. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, hey, if you want to be fair, you bring your side deck of Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, to give your opponents. That way each of them gets to run an Emrakul while you're playing the Leovold deck. Let it rip, who cares? It's a game, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a ton of run wishes, whatever. Like as long as your play group is cool with it, that's all that really matters. But at the end of the day, we want to know what you guys think. Is there any card on here that you were absolutely desperate to have unbanned or that you think should be added to the ban list? I think this is just a fun conversation to have with anybody. Obviously you can even see slight differentiations in me and John's opinions. It's all based on player experience, and certain cards that hold like special spots in our hearts, and the other cards that hold that black spot in the heart where we're like, every time we see it, we instantaneously repulse. Turgid. Oh gosh, what? Man, this cold is just killing me. Anyway, let us know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, guys, we're going to talk with you in the multiverse.